This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 101 is brought to us by Blueberry Markets. Now, most of you listening to this podcast right now have put together a trading algorithm, and it's probably pretty good. So you need to put that algorithm to work and put it to work across multiple markets. There's no reason why you wouldn't do this. You can do this with Blueberry Markets. Trade Forex, metals, indices, crypto, the top 50 traded American stocks. A good algorithm works almost everywhere. So put it to work on the broker with the #1 customer service in the world. Go down below and click the link to the blog. That blog will tell you everything you need to know. In that blog, click my affiliate link, and that will get you signed up. That will get you a cash bonus. That will get you your own personal concierge should anything go wrong. Now, I don't know if you're leaving money on the table or not, but if you are, get started now and get started with Blueberry Markets. Also, a side note with Bybit, we're having another monthly contest, same as before, USDT for the prize. 20 lucky traders will get $50 USD delivered right into their wallets. And there is also another promotion going on with Bybit. Please check the blog for that, link down below as well. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and this could be a long one, so let's get right into it. If you remember back to episode 32, that was when I introduced a lot of you to the Cardano ecosystem for the first time. And this was, I don't know if it was my most popular show ever. It was up there, but it was certainly one of my most well-received. I mean, I got a lot of you on board, and a lot of you are still on board, and it has been a very rewarding experience for many of you, and I'm very, very happy to have taken part of that. Now, making money is one thing, of course, but bringing this level of joy and excitement to somebody's life, too, that's also really great. And it's been a rewarding experience for me, too. Met a lot of really great people. I am firmly entrenched in that ecosystem, and I really can't wait to see what comes out of all this. But there was one problem, and we all kind of fell into this, myself included. But I think, back when I first put that episode out, I think it was early 2022? January 2022, I think. I should go look, but yeah, January 15th, 2022. Back then, there was so much hype around that ecosystem and everything they were doing and how high the token price was. And I think almost everybody there really did think that all of these projects would have come full circle or pretty close to it by now, the middle of 2023. I certainly did. I thought, at least on the Metaverse front, we would have some play-to-earn games that we could actually be playing and earning right now. And we kind of have that in one of my examples, but everything else we do not yet. And that was just naivete on my part, not understanding just how long it takes to build a game, or even more so an open-world metaverse with a bunch of people running around in it. Now, again, I'm certainly not the only one here. A lot of people have bailed on these projects simply due to lack of patience. The vast majority of them are progressing and moving forward and putting out some really cool stuff. But you know how fickle this industry is. And you also know how young and how impatient and how inexperienced most crypto investors are. And all of this brings me to a particular conundrum. And I want to talk about this before we start getting into the individual projects on this ecosystem. And that's what I call the founder's dilemma. Now, they know how long these things take. And they probably know that we don't know just how long these things take. Because if we did, we probably wouldn't invest, at least not at the start, and have our money tied up for like 3, maybe 4 years while these projects build and try to get it all figured out. The problem is, if they can't raise that money from us at the beginning, they either have to go the VC route, which nobody wants to do, or just simply not build at all. Like, these projects would never get off the ground if they didn't get money from us early on. And they can't be completely honest with us. They can't say, hey, this is going to fucking take a while. I hope you guys are really in this for the long haul, because most crypto investors just aren't. So what do you do? Well, you don't lie to people, but you conveniently leave that it's going to take a long time part out. And that's what most of these projects did, and I understand why. And I'm already a patient long-term investor. So while I was hoping to see more by now, I also know that it's just my overall lack of understanding about this industry, and so I'm certainly willing to see it through. Now did some projects mislead us into thinking it was going to be a lot sooner? Yeah. But again, you got that sunk cost already there. So you pretty much have to ride it out unless you're desperate for the money that's in there. My advice is to just be patient. But let me go ahead and update you on everything that I know that's going on within the ecosystem. If there are any projects I am leaving out that you are a part of and that you like, please go to YouTube and comment in the comment section down below. And also give us an update on that project if you can. You don't need to mention any of the ones that I'm mentioning, but if there's one that I did not, let the contrarians know what's going on. But before we get to the Metaverse projects, let's talk about DeFi. Now, DeFi 1.0 in the Cardano ecosystem was really a grand failure. Just so much hype around it, and understandably so. If these are going to be the main DEX and DeFi platforms for the entire Cardano blockchain, which is, it's a top 10 token, it's a big deal. Then, you want to get in early, and there were airdrops, all this really cool stuff around things like Sunday Swap and Min Swap, Muesli Swap, and all of those platforms are still around. So pretty much DeFi 1.0 is going to be the same as DeFi 2.0, I think. I don't know any other new DEX platforms coming into the game, so we're pretty much stuck with the ones we had. And the ones we had were just kind of not what we thought. I mean, they're very functional and they do all the things you would want them to do. But maybe there was just too much hype around it. I don't know. Because pretty much every native token in the Cardano ecosystem completely tanked. And the price of ADA already tanked, 90% off of its highs. The tokens within ADA tanked as well. And so you had this really horrible multiplier effect. And a lot of people got totally wrecked out of all this. Now, I put a little bit, and I put this in the blog when I first did it, into two projects that I felt pretty good about at the time and just did not come out to anything. So I lost pretty much everything, but they were small bets. And I've learned to not really do that anymore. Hell or high water, I'm pretty much done speculating on these tokens. Feel free to do that yourself. I'm already earning just passively a lot of in-game tokens for Metaverse projects, but as far as putting my actual cash down, I think I'm pretty done with it. I put it down on a DEX platform that was going to be cross-chain. It was the only one of its kind. It totally bombed. That was 8x. And then at the time, if you remember, there was only really one good place to buy all of your CNFTs, and that was cnft.io. They had a token. I put a little bit on that. And now nobody goes to cnft.io to buy anything. So, just operate with caution. Feel free to do whatever you want. But as far as I go, unless I'm already earning it passively, I have no interest in investing in native Cardano tokens at this time. Maybe if things completely bottom out down the line, I'll consider it. But again, you guys know my strategy by now. I like to go best of breed. And if I'm going to speculate, I'm going to speculate that way. No more super low cap coins. Definitely no meme coins. If you read my blog on Thursday, you know my thoughts on meme coins. But anyway, let's keep this rolling with DeFi here. Now, you're going to have this, like I say, the same DEX platforms, Muesli Swap, Min Swap, Sunday Swap, and Wing Riders. And if you also read my blog, saying one of the things I also really hate about this is all four of those platforms are represented by cartoons. And it's like, Jesus Christ, somebody come along and put a serious project up with serious monikers and advertising behind it. This is ridiculous. The platforms are fine. They're very functional. I use MinSwap as my main, and it does exactly what I need it to do. But I'm really interested to see some of these new players in the game. Now, these guys should have probably been there for 1.0, but they weren't. Players like Meld, ViFi, Liquid Finance, they're all going to be up and operational soon. If you want to look into them, they're not DEX platforms to my knowledge, but they're more like staking, lending, things like that. So it's good to have those in the mix, and we now have stable coins in the mix as well. We have IUSD, which is more like a synthetic version of USD coming from the Indigo protocol, and we have DJED, or JED, however you want to say it, DJED, which is the algorithmic stablecoin that Charles Hoskinson keeps talking about. And there was a lot of hype around it. I'm not sure how much it's used, but it's there now, to where we didn't have stablecoins before. So once DeFi gets back into vogue, expect this whole portion of the ecosystem to get going again. It's hard to say, why it tanked so bad the first time. People have theories, but this engine is finally revving up and getting going again. Despite the calamitous 1.0, we didn't sustain too many casualties here, so that's pretty good. And who knows? By then, there might be enough people out there who want to do their finance on a platform with a smiling bowl of ice cream on it or a monkey in a spacesuit. Who knows? Sounds ridiculous to me, but I'm old, so we'll see. Okay, finally, moving on to the projects that most of you care about, the Metaverse projects. And for one chain, man, there's been a lot, and even the ones I'm a part of is just a small portion of what's really out there. And so I'll start with the two that I am the most heavily invested in, and to my delight, these two projects are going very strong and moving forward. And a lot of the NFTs that I bought from them early on have all gone up in value. Not in dollars, but in terms of ADA, they have. So the first one is Cardania. And Cardania is going to be a lot of things now. It's going to be like 3 or 4 different games all kind of fusing into one. And one of those games is out now. It's called Epic Wars, Epic spelled EPOCH. And you got to understand, a lot of these games that are, quote, out right now are just the crude basic alpha version, and they're going to get a lot better. So when you look at it and you're like, oh, that's kind of dumb, like this is what I've been waiting for. No, this is not what you've been waiting for. This is the very early version, so they can get the bugs out and see how it works and do all that. And it's actually gotten kind of fun. At first, it was a bit of a chore because I have lots of land there, and it was taking 30 minutes out of my day just to play this game. But it's actually kind of worth my while now, and I look forward to it every 5 days. There's 5 days in an Epic. And again, they're just scratching the surface of what they're about to do here. There's a card game coming soon, which is very exciting. There's not a lot of good card games on Web3 right now, and the ones that are you're super priced out of them. Like, you can't play them at all. And the community just continues to be great. And like I said before, they give you so much free stuff just by staking into their pool. So if this game does finally come around, and if it catches on, I'm going to be in a very, very good position. And I think anybody who comes in now, not financial advice, will also be very happy they did. Moving on to my next one, and that's going to be Cornucopias. I did a full dedicated episode on this one. And they don't have anything out yet. Now, this is a much more grandiose undertaking than Cardania is. Two very different style of projects here. But they are having their racing game come out soon. And this was something I almost kind of wish they didn't do at first, but I'm really glad they're doing it now. And I just saw a trailer, a lot of us did, that just looked freaking amazing. I'm actually going to link that down below so you can check it out after this. I mean, we were blown away. And I understand that cutscenes are not the same as actual gameplay, but it doesn't matter. Like this, what they're doing in Web3 compared to what most projects are doing is really, really impressive. I stake to their pool also, and I get their native token. And so I'm not a big racing game fan, but I'm just going to kind of sit back and keep stacking here. All of my NFTs here have gone up in value quite a bit. As long as this project is going to take, people are into it, they believe in it. And I think it's probably still cheap now, but I think this is going to be one of those projects that it's going to be really hard to break in once these games finally do get going. I have no idea when that's going to be. I'm probably expecting nothing really fully playable as far as what I like to do until maybe like mid to late 2024, and I'm usually early on that. But investment-wise, so far, I've been very happy there. Okay, so everything after those two, there's a big drop-off in terms of how heavily I'm invested in it. But the next one's going to be Pavia. This is the flagship open-world metaverse. And they don't have anything out yet, but they're getting close, and this is really exciting because, again, this is something that does take longer to do. There's a lot of competition in this space just on the ADA chain alone. I mean, you have Clayverse, you have Virtua, a lot of other smaller projects that are having open world metaverses, or at least portions of their game are going to have that. I'm going to talk about a couple of those projects in a moment. But the one thing that gives me a bit of comfort here is their founder has already taken companies from small to very large. And the whole business aspect of this is the one thing that really bothers me about this ecosystem. I think you have a lot of great founders that are really great at building games, but I don't know about their business sense. And one of the biggest things we have to worry about with these projects is them running out of money because they just don't have the business chops or they didn't have the foresight to hire somebody who did. So you might have projects that just have everything going for it, and then one day all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're out of money. That's already happened to one of the projects I'm about to talk about. But realistically, I expect 90 to 95% of these things to fail. It's just that if you're in the right one or two, it's not going to matter from an investing standpoint. So, I'm trying to pick the top projects here, at least best bang for the buck. And I still think Pavia has a good chance going forward, even though what they've come up with so far is just not much yet. All right, moving on to Equine. This is the horse racing game, and all of my NFTs here have gone up as well, even though these guys are not that far. I don't think they have a very Atari-looking kind of alpha version where they, you can go in and race and they hammer out bugs and stuff like that. And they were just able to raise a bit more money. But this is certainly a wait-and-see approach. If they build what I think they're going to build, like I said before, horse racing games do very well. It's just that the whole world is priced out of all the big horse racing games right now. And the one great thing about ADA is, even though it might seem like a bunch of money to you up front, compare that to other projects on other chains, it's night and day. So if you're going to get in cheap, this is the place to do it. Next one is Cardano Village. Dead. Gone. Again, most of these projects will. Now this one, I wasn't even bullish on. I thought it was kind of stupid, but Charles Hoskinson at one point did mention the project. I don't know if it was positive or negative or if he just said something, but that's more than he does with most of these projects. It actually came out of his mouth, and it kind of had that whole appeal to the Asian market vibe to it. And I've said this before, although it seems kind of, silly to me and a lot of people in the West, the Asian market loves stuff that looks and operates like this project did. So I said, okay, let's buy a few land parcels and see how it goes. And it flopped. Ran out of money. And I wasn't super upset about it. I fully expect things like this to happen. So moving on to Metadams. I've mentioned this. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I am in this one. I mentioned it on Discord. But the prize here is a higher percentage of ADA from their stake pool. So the people who perform better in this game get a higher percentage. I thought that was pretty nice because all things considered, I would rather just have more ADA as opposed to earning their native token, which is typically very volatile and who knows what's going to happen with it. I would just give me ADA. So pretty interested in this project, and they just came out with their kind of central city. It's not the game itself that's going to be on the outskirts, but the place where everybody kind of goes and meets. And let's just say it's very, very crude looking. If this is all they've come up with so far, they're probably not progressing the way I would like them to, especially because they had said before the fully playable version of this game was already going to be out by now, and they don't have a lot to show for it. But again, I need to understand, I've never been really a part of video game projects in the past to where people just get really into it and wait for the game to come out for years. That was never how I wanted to spend my time. But here I am now with these projects because I'm actually invested monetarily in them. And I'm realizing now just how long this process is. So there's a lot of people who are upset at where this game is right now. But again, I'm really trying to trust the process here. I certainly won't be spending any more money on Metadams, but because people were so unhappy with the progress so far, a lot of the NFTs have dropped in value. So you may want to take a look at this one, and if you're interested, scoop in on the low. Because unlike the majority of the projects that I'm in where my NFT value has gone up, these have tanked. And finally, there's a project that I didn't really have a lot of faith in, but the NFTs were going, the land parcels were going for so cheap. I'm like, let's just get a few and see what happens. And to my surprise and to a lot of people's surprise, this particular project is probably further ahead than anything I have named so far. Actually, it's not probably, it's certainly further ahead. And it's an open world Metaverse too, which is such a tough thing to pull off. And this is Cardastation, Carda space station. It is an open world metaverse project on the moon. Now, at the time, there was already a similar project like this called Artifact Moon. That project has since died, but Cardastation stuck around. It's got lots of stuff on it. It's got its own little mini racing game, and it has a really awesome community hub, which is, to me, kind of like one big convention center right in the middle. And it's just this one big, like really big, centralized place with all these kind of like cubbyhole style booths that you can rent out if you want to advertise something. You know, you got a lot of really big companies in there, at least, you know, big Cardano companies. You have influencers who have rented out booths, and it looks really good. It already looks better than Decentralized looks, who is trying to accomplish a lot of the same things. And the land parcels are still the same price they were before. Like, this hasn't caught on yet. But I do recommend you get on board with this project and have a look around. I'm very, very impressed. And a lot of the land parcels are going for like $6 USD. So, like, you could really, really do worse here. You know, this is the one project out of all the ones that I've mentioned to where I'm like, okay, maybe I actually need more equity here. But that's my overall update on everything as I see it in this particular ecosystem. I mean, this chain is just keeps doing great things. It's avoiding all of the problems that the Bitcoin chain, the Ethereum chain are having right now. Yet the price is just going down with the rest of the market. I love when I see things like this. You know, same thing going on in Polygon, in Litecoin. You know, those two also are growing. Doing exactly what they're supposed to do, yet the price does not reflect this. This is a beautiful, beautiful divergence here, and this is exactly what we want to see. So there are numerous ways to play this. You can just invest in the token itself, or you can dive deeper and get into these projects that have higher upside, and certainly higher downside as well. It's been, like I said, a very rewarding experience for me and many of you. And a lot of people who kind of got into the hype back in early 2022 and got into these projects and are now gone are going to look at us who are still in them and think that we are absolutely crazy for sticking this out. And in many cases, they are going to be correct. But in some cases, they're going to be incorrect. And the upside they missed out on is going to be tremendous. And they're going to regret calling us crazy when we were just early.